What is going on, everybody? My name is Alan. This is Project Elevate, and today I want to talk to you about the MyTeam card structure going into 2K22. Things I'd like to see. So this is kind of a wish list, end of season stuff. I'm going to kind of fire out everything that I have going on. Should have done this back in like January, February or so the dev team actually had some time to implement some of this stuff. But either way, wanted to get this out there. And let's start with, first things first, card tier integrity. So that's such a big thing for me. That's basically making the top tier cards much better than the lower. It's really that simple, man, but you see it all the time. You see dark matter cards flooding the auction house, and they're just garbage cards, you know? We know it, everybody knows it. The devs know it. They give certain cards meta this and meta that. Wingspan, whatever, they know what they're doing. And I think that it's time that we kind of get rid of this trend and we take it back to the era where, you know, the top tier cards in the game are actually all-time great players. You know, I want to see Jordan actually be a dominant force in the NBA. I want to see Hakeem, Kareem, Wilt actually be top dudes in the game and not be, you know, superseded by a guy like James Wiseman, who, like, frankly hasn't done anything in his career. You know, there's a time and place for some of those meme cards, but that needs to be at the very end of the game. And also, I think that they shouldn't get to that upper echelon of card tier. We need to separate that a little bit more. So that's one thing that I definitely gotta like throw out there right at the beginning. Okay, another thing that I kind of want to talk about as far as card tier integrity is just from like the beginning of the cycle to the end cycle and what those kind of gem tiers signify. We all know we've gotten. Let's go into here and let's look at some of the reward cards from early on in the game. You know, you had these pink diamond cards that came out, you know, day one, and we know that they are just nowhere near what even like some of the amethyst cards are in the game, you know, today, diamond cards, stuff like that. You know, we get really early opals, and they're just garbage. The badge counts doesn't measure up, the stats don't measure up to what Galaxy opals. So it's all just like meta specific and not card tier specific, not era specific. It's just a mess, and I think if we get that structured a little bit better, I think it's going to go a long way towards improving the gameplay of everything, from a simple perspective as far as just like making a team, and you have, you know, certain players that are, you know, pink diamond cards, but they play way below. But now you're getting matched up against meta cards that are same tier, but like just leaps and bounds bigger. You kind of mess everything up. Everything gets super muddy when you do it that way. So we need to have that integrity, you know, play out throughout the year. Just give us lower tier cards at the beginning of the year, and, you know, as the year progresses, you know, up those cards up to, you know, to the diamonds, to the pink diamonds, to the opals, dark matters, whatever it may be, whatever card tiers we get in the future, but make those more consistent and throughout the whole entire year. All right, so one of the things I kind of really want to jump into is, you know, we all know we have, you know, the beginning of the cycle, we have the mid game, we have the end game, and then we have what I call post-apocalypse. Okay, so the beginning of the game, you know, September through December, things usually tend out to be a little bit more realistic. Although in September we got a glitch John Stockton that could dunk over people and was going crazy. I don't want to see that crap at the beginning of the year. I want players that are playing true to life, but I also want them to kind of pace out the game so that cards are more era specific and more like time stamped rather than just like meta specific. You know, so like I don't want like, you know, a Jordan Bulls card that's from like 96 with that type of like animation, that you know, that player model, that timestamp on the card or date stamp or whatever, and him be like a Ruby. You know what I mean? Give me like young Jordan, you know what I mean? Give me young Kobe with a fro. Make those things more tied into like, you know, the era that the card is supposed to represent. That way you can kind of space that out. You know, give us those cards that are, you know, they're athletic, they can drive, but their skills aren't quite so developed. You know what I mean? Same thing with cards that are way past their prime. You know, the skills good, here you go, much better shooter, but they lost a step, they lost the ups. You know, things like that make the card stand out and be unique. Versus just like, hey, this is like the meta where we're at right now. This is what a Ruby should play like, and let's just like throw some arbitrary stats and badges on them to just kind of make them fit in. Get a little bit. I know it's a little bit more work, but this is what you guys do, right? You guys put together cards to give us impacts. Put a little bit of time into the cards that you're releasing. Give us more era-specific cards that are true to life to whatever that card. And for that, you kind of really need to have like, hey, this is a 96 version of Jordan. This is a, you know, much like, you know, like in real trading cards, you know, they're going to have, this is rookie version Jordan, whatever. Make those cards stand out a little bit more. All right, so jumping back into the cycle of my team, beginning September to December, base cards. Let's talk about that a little bit. I want base cards that, you know, have somewhat realistic stats. You know, you can have like the top 5 cards start off as diamonds or whatever, and, you know, let them be good at what they're actually good at. You know, let, you know, Steph Curry, you know, flirt with that 90s, you know, 3-point rating. You know what I mean? He should never have a trash 3-point rating. He's never been a bad shooter. You know, guys like current LeBron doesn't have the athleticism, but has other aspects of his game that still make him a good player. Giannis, inconsistent, you know, they kind of do this, but they tend to like really nerf stats to where like even guys like Harden, you know, was starting off with like a 70-something 3-point shot. You got to base those on something, you know, like, and give the cards stats where they need, but like give them the realistic weaknesses as well. Like James Harden shouldn't be playing defense, you know, he should be getting blown by, that type of thing. And then start off with out of prime versions of superstars, all-time greats, things like that. And then historic role players, kind of for what they were in their normal, not like their moment that stands out in the playoffs where they hit a big shot or whatever, but just kind of like what they were on a day-to-day basis. So that you can give us like the lower tier, you know, gold, emerald, sapphire, historic role players. Out of prime versions of superstars, you know, like God forbid they give us a Washington Wizards Jordan or something like that. Or guys, you know, like T-Mac that played for like the Knicks in Detroit for a little bit at the end. You know, do those types of cards like they're, you know, Shaq with Phoenix or whatever. Give us those types of cards early on that don't have their stats. You know, I don't want to see a juice version of, you know, Shaq on the Celtics. You know, like, no, he wasn't good on the Celtics. You know what I mean? As a juice version, like give us a juice version of Shaq as a Magic, you know, where he had that crazy athleticism, but, you know, certain aspects of the game, you know, weren't quite there yet, whatever. I'm tired of seeing, you know, 8 different, you know, Philadelphia 76ers Wilt Chamberlains before we get like a Wilt with the headband on the Lakers or whatever. I want to see more variety in that type of stuff. And then the moments cards early on, you know, realistic to the performance. You know, if somebody goes off, they have a crazy night from 3, all right, juice the 3-point rating, but you don't have to juice every other aspect of the game just to like make them a meta diamond card or a meta pink diamond card or whatever it may be, you know. Dial it in more so it's a little bit more realistic. It's going to give more variety to the cards, and at the end of the day, the more variety and dynamic cards we have in the game, the better experience is going to be, because it's going to allow us to have to play certain ways with certain cards, know your personnel type thing. You know, hey, yo, this guy went off from 3. He can be my sniper. I can bring him in, but hey, he's going to be a weakness on defense or whatever it may be. Okay, so that basically covers, you know, September through December. We're getting started. We all know right around Christmas, right before Christmas, is when my team really starts to pick up a little bit. So we enter the mid game right around Christmas, January through March. This is usually, you know, we had the 50K tournament a little bit late this year because of the scheduling of the season. But you can even slide this to the end of February or whatever. And this is the mid game, you know, this is where we start seeing prime versions of some stars, on the cusp versions of superstars and all-time great players, you know, cards that represent like those players, you know, right before they hit their prime, right after they left their prime, and not meta versions of Jordan and Shaq and all that type of thing. That comes a little bit later. We still want to be building up, but cards that have, you know, more strengths and less weaknesses. And we can also start seeing historic team squad fillers, role players that hit that classic shot, that big shot that had just that one season that they were just off the chain. And you can start giving us more juiced versions of some of those role players. One thing that I really enjoy doing, as you guys know, is building squads and putting together, an era team, the Clippers from the 2000s, the Lakers, of course, the Shaq Kobe era Lakers, the Shaq Powell Kobe era Lakers. Some of my favorites, the mid 2000s Kings teams with like Chris Webber, stuff like that. I want to see cards that, fill in some of those gaps, come into play in the mid game and in the end game. Honestly, we do not need to see, what do we have? Like 6 different versions of Dark Matter LeBron at this point, with more surely on the way. We're getting another one Friday with Space Jam, and then we're getting a GOAT one, I'm sure, at some point. We don't need to see the repetition constantly. We have like 3 different versions of Laker Shaq, Pink Diamond, actually like 5 versions, I think. We have a diamond version of Laker Shaq, a pink diamond version, a emerald version, opal version, a dark matter, 2 dark matter versions. Throw one of those guys on the Magic, throw one of those guys on the Suns or whatever, and tier them accordingly. So get us into that mid-range where we're still getting semi-realistic things going on, but you're filling out and you're giving us versions of players that fulfilled, played past their capacity in certain seasons or in a certain series or whatever. You can be creative and you can have a lot of fun, putting out promos that, like talk about that, playoff performers, whatever, like kind of what we saw, playoff stoppers, things of that nature. Okay, then flowing into the end game, which is like April, June, basically through like the playoffs and the finals. End game should pretty much end at the finals, and after that, let the floodgates open. But at this point, like leading up into the playoffs, to kind of finish off the regular season of the NBA, then you start dropping the prime versions of superstars, the all-time great GOAT cards, the highest tiers where like their weaknesses. This is where I'm cool with weaknesses being boosted. For example, 3-point rating on centers that didn't shoot back in the day. Boost them up to the 80 range or so like that, so where they can actually hit it, but it's not super OP. We still need that differentiation between top tier shooters and mid-range guys, and there needs to be a clear separation of that. I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, and also this is where you can get like peak versions of role players, like juice them up. This is where like you have the guy that really went off in the finals or something like that to clutch it out, like a version of Steve Kerr who hit that game winner in the finals. Juice him out a little bit, make it a little bit fun. You're kind of like crossing out of realism at this point. There's a lot of debate on realistic versus let's have fun. And I make the analogy of boosting a little bit, embellishing, stats a little bit is like adding a little bit of seasoning and making things more fun. But like completely breaking the mold is pretty much just like dumping the whole salt shaker on your food, and now it's just garbage. And that's pretty much what we get towards the end of every year. People just can't figure out, man, why does this game feel so bad? Because it's not programmed to play that way, and I don't think they should change the approach of the programming as far as like, hey, we need to program a game where like it's meant to be played with 99 everything stat players. I don't think every card should have 99 everything stats. I think certain cards should have 99 rated shooting stats, 3-point shot. And those shots, you should be making a lot of whites. You should be greening fairly easily. It's 99 rating. Like that needs to signify something of the elite nature, And there needs to be a difference between a 99 and a 90. You know what I mean? And a 90 and an 85 and an 85 and a sub 80. Those things need to be noticeable differences in the game. At the end of the game, when every card has 99 rated everything because of coaches and shoes and whatnot, it's just gonna break the game. It's not supposed to be like that. You can't complain about, hey, he's making contested shot. He's got a 99 rated with like every Hall of Fame badge. That's what it's supposed to do. Be more sparing with those ratings and those badges, make those mean more, make those more exclusive to certain like tiers of players, and you're gonna have a much more balanced game. Okay, so moving on past my little rant, let's get into the post-apocalypse, man. This is post-endgame. This is after the finals are over. At this, it's July, August. We're kind of all just waiting for the next 2K to drop or whatever. At this point, go crazy with your meme cards. But my caveat here is you gotta get them like up into the A tier, but not quite the S tier. Say what you want. Tell me you disagree in the comments if you totally do. But I still want to see the all-time greats have that extra little step on, like your guys like Bull, like Taco. People are like, oh, it's fun. The community gets hyped. Honestly, like, they're only hyped because it's a really good card. They don't really care about the game. Give us usable versions. Juice them up a bit. Get them. You can go a little crazy at the end. I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be realistic all the time. I get that. But you gotta respect the game, man. Like, that's something that, the young, casual crowd probably doesn't care much about. Anybody that kind of like has watched basketball for a while, has been into it, has played it, where the basketball is actually a passion of theirs, and it's spilled into 2K. Like, we want the game respected. We want the all-time great players to be all-time great cards in the game, and we want the meme guys to have their shine, but like not overshadow the history of the game. My team is a fantasy mode, but I think the fantasy is like, hey man, who would win? Like a stacked LeBron team versus a stacked Jordan team. Kobe, LeBron in the finals. Like having those barbershop conversations that we have. We're like, oh, who's the GOAT? Play that out in the virtual hardwood. It's not about like, hey, look at this bull. Like, he could dunk on everything. Look at this Thon Maker. He's the best card in the game. Danny Ferry, but come on, bro. Like, that's just ridiculousness. And to me, it just detracts from the game. It makes me want to put the controller down. It makes me want to walk away and do something else with my time. And yeah, I think even like the guys that like they get hyped for that stuff, they're still the guys that are complaining, hey, this game is trash. I don't know why I don't have any fun with this game anymore. And it's because of those types of things. There's no structure, like when you have structure, you can kind of break from the structure a little bit and you have a good time. You get into a little bit of, what if and this and that and what, but like if you have no structure at all, it's just chaos and it ends up being garbage, and there's a lot of gameplay things that need to be worked out for all this to work. And we're going to get a gameplay video out, hopefully, as far as what gameplay improvements need. I think one of the biggest things that kills gameplay is just clones. Every card being a clone of one another. Every card having the same stakes. I remember, this will show my age a little bit, but I remember 2K7, Xbox 360 generation, and we got signature jump shots, man. It was just like, whoa, like this dude has a different jump shot than this guy. Like, what's going on? Like, our minds were blown, and at this point we're just like, oh, he doesn't have base 98, he doesn't have XM base, trash, you know what I mean? Doesn't have Curry escape, trash. So it's just like, for one, 2K needs to make a larger variety of moves effective. So that's partly why they have to do that, because like they didn't make a game that was balanced in that sense. But at the same time, like, we got to get away from that mentality. There was times last year where I enjoyed using certain players that didn't have 99 speed because it was such a change of pace that it threw people off. People were so used to just preparing for that ultra speed that like a little bit of, a non-pro 3 behind the back would like surprise them, would catch them off guard, and I was very effective with it, So 2K needs to do a better job of doing that, but also of giving guys like their strengths, finding a way for different types of players to be very effective, using their strengths and signatures and whatnot. And there's always going to be faster shots and faster dribble moves, but those should be reserved for the guys that had elite fast jumpers. You know what I mean? All right, guys. And unfortunately, the last little bit of the video got chopped off, got corrupted. Thank God I was recording in MKV format, so I was able to salvage most of the video. But I think I pretty much covered the bases here on structure. Some more structure to the card tiers and what those tiers signify, I think would add a lot of balance to the game. So hopefully we see a little bit better job of them doing that. I also really like the concept of different cards being from specific eras and being representative of their strengths and weaknesses from that era. Whether it was like the post guys from the 80s, the golden age of big men, the stretch bigs, the switch to the fast pace, shoot from half court type guys. All that stuff being represented, I think, makes a more dynamic game. So hopefully we see some more of that. You agree, you disagree, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Smash that like. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. My name is Alan. This is Project Elevate. Until next time, elevate your grind, game yourselves, and each other. Peace.